good?
Good. Ready to go.
Okay,
Are we ready? Very good.
we're ready.
We'll call this meeting February 1st to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're mostly in sync there, I think. Okay, since we're virtual, Amy, do you want to take attendance?
Yes, President Garrett,
Present.
Vice President Plunkett,
Present.
Councilor Burke,
Here.
Councilor Choi,
Here.
Councilor Culp,
Present.
Councilor Melton,
Here.
and Councilor Trailer.
Here.
Thank you.
Good. We've got the approval of the memorandum of the January 19th, 2021 regular meeting. A copy has been posted. Unless there are any questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Second from Vice President Plunkett.
President Garrett,
Yes.
President Plunkett, or Vice President Plunkett.
Yes.
There's a coup.
I know. Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Joe, you're on mute. You're still on mute. You can just shake your
Yes.
head. There we go.
thank you. Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Trailer,
Yes.
thank you.
All right. The memoranda of the January 19th, 2021 regular town council meeting is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have a request to speak. Anyone wishing to speak may raise their hand and we will call on you. Amy, I see one. Mr. Triscari has requested to
Just
speak.
promoted him.
Very good. Mr. Triscari, I think you know the drill. I'll give you your 3 minutes after your name and address. The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Craig Triscari, 3270 Paddock Road. As of February 2021, Van Trust has still failed to run the 8-inch water line into Saratoga. November 2018 rezoning passing requiring Van Trust to run the line when they set up their water. To quote the commitment document that has been ignored by the leadership, it states, at the time owner extends water to service its project, owner shall install a single 8-inch water line from the real estate and along the single pathway crossing at the points, and it talks about those points. Keywords is shall, and the time frame is when the owner extends water to service its project. The timeline has been in violation, as well as other commitments to include tree sizes, tree dimensions, tree placements, the types of trees, which are all part of the documents presented in 2018 board meeting. Phase 2 commitment letter has not been produced, probably because Van Trust has not purchased the land to my knowledge. The commitment that was made by Van Trust during Phase 2's public hearing was exactly the same in Phase 1, minus the private commitment to a handful of homeowners for hookup fees. When the commitment is used, it should be compared promises made in the commitment Phase 2 in the public hearing for compliance. About a month ago, the president of this board stated he talked to Van Trust about a timeline for emplacement of a failed water line in Phase 1. We had been given a general timeline of April 2021. It is my understanding as of 27 January 2021, Van Trust has sent a second request to the landowner on 400 South for easement rights. The first attempt, as I understand, in October of 2020 failed, and the owner denied access based on the Van Trust adding unwanted actions on the first agreement. I believe it was sewage lines. The landowner has a sole right to deny easements from Van Trust, which will put us back to 2018 on getting water line. I hope Van Trust doesn't fail again to secure a private. He should have already secured. Communication of this project with the residents in rural Zionsville has been horrible, and other communities should take notice on how a speculative project can go so horribly wrong. I would like just to finally say that you provided this rural community really any zero value added with the construction that you've led so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triscari. I did speak to the developers today in anticipation of concerns from Mr. Triscari. They told me that the easements are out for signatures. Everything is looking good. They're still remain committed to this. They've got one language change for Whitestown they had to agree to, and that's been done and should be getting done as planned, on schedule, as was originally committed. This project does not have a certificate of occupancy yet because they've not achieved everything that they've stated that they would achieve, and they've never wavered from that statement. So this is going as we expected it would go, and as always stated how it would go. And I appreciate Van Trust's continued commitment to this, and the town certainly holding them responsible for those commitments at the time of occupancy. That's the key word there. So anyone else request to speak there? Amy, from the public?
I do not see anyone else.
Okay, very good. We got Mayor Administration update, and Mayor Styron, I see you. Thanks for joining us here tonight.
Hey there.
Floor is yours.
Thanks for giving me a little bit of time. I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate the work that you all have done on the safety board ordinance. It's taken out the components that we talked about. I found some issues with, and this document is perfect. It's back to where being a complement to the Board of Police Commissioners kind of framework. It gives us the tool that we desperately need in order to adjudicate matters that fall outside of in the fire department as they move forward. And it's very timely, and I just really appreciate how quickly you all work to put that together.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you spending your evening to come and talk through that. I know it was something that we all had to work through together to figure out something that worked for all. And so thanks go back to you as well for your commitment and help in getting to this where we are. Just for the public's notion, this is ordinance 2021-02, which is C on our new business. But anyways, appreciate that.
You bet.
Anything else, Mayor, for us here tonight?
No, I know you guys have quite a bit on your agenda. I would love to get together more of a comprehensive kind of first quarter presentation for you all when we get a little further into this year.
That'd be great.
But just wanted to make sure that you heard directly from me that I am real grateful for that ordinance moving forward.
Great.
Super.
Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Y'all have a good night.
You too. We have no old business, so we'll move on to new business. The first up is a presentation of a Raintree Place petition for speed limit reductions on Sycamore Street. This is being led by Mr. Steve Russo. I see he's been promoted. Steve, if you can give your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. My name is Steve Russo. I reside at 660 Eagle Creek Court here in Raintree Place. And per the Homeowners Association Board, I've been authorized to come before this distinguished group and present, hopefully, your consideration to lower the speed limit on Sycamore Street between Michigan Road and right past the bridge. There are two documents that I put forward for your perusal, one of them being the survey that we took in October. I would mention we did not use a Dominion voting system for this survey, so it's pretty good shapes. Major thing is I spoke with Lance prior to doing the survey, who said that we should wait a couple of months after the new bridge was in to kind of let traffic, even itself out and then come to you with this request. If you look at the map I proposed to you, you'll see that from US 421 until about 10 yards past the new bridge, coming from the east to west, the speed limit there is 45 miles an hour. Now, prior to that, on 116th Street in Carmel, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. The speed limit going into town on South Main Street is 35 miles an hour. The speed limit coming from the west into town on Oak Street is 30 miles an hour. as is it on out by the golf course coming in that way. What we're really asking for, ladies and gentlemen, is consistency with the speed limits that are going into town. As a resident, you know, we have this trail that now we love, and the kids and the families and people with dogs and whatnot use going into town. But going in and out of our development, you have to look both ways twice. You got to make sure people aren't coming into the trail right in front of your car. Then you got to look at traffic itself. Well, where we live, right here on Rain Tree, this is right where people are speeding right up, and many times are going much faster than the 45-mile-an-hour limit. Conversely, if we're coming from the west trying to turn into Rain Tree, there is a passing lane in back of us, but you haven't felt the thrill of somebody whipping by you about 55 miles an hour in a dually pickup truck as you try to make that turn. So the major thing that we're trying to ask for is consistency. It is a challenge for Rain Tree residents. We have speeding cars going by in both directions. And again, this is the only place, as best I could tell by driving around, that was 45 miles an hour. I do understand, having talked to Lance, that you would do a traffic survey, and that would give us some better definition of what the average speeds are, but I can assure you that there's quite a bit of acceleration that goes on at Spring Drive and keeps on going many times past the bridge. Also, that slowdown will help people trying to get in and out of Lions Park, which is also on an incline, and you have to kind of speed up as people speed up, either in front of them or you got to wait for traffic to get through. So that's our hope, that you will have a consideration on this, and Lance has been very helpful in giving me information on it, and we're looking for a traffic survey that will prove out. I also gave you that survey, and if you'll look at the numbers on it, you'll see that there were, let me get to my heavy duty math here. We had 135 responses, and out of those responses, 84 said yes to a resolution to lower the speed limit, either 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, or any reduction at all. We have 51 people out of that 135 who have lead foots and don't want to go any slower. And I don't want to name names in our neighborhood, but you know who you are. That being said, I hope that you'll go forward and do something about that speed there.
Thanks,
Any
Steve.
questions for the good of the order?
Questions for Mr. Russo? I have one for Mr. Lance. Any questions for Mr. Russo?
Just one. Steve, what was the source of the group for the survey?
That was the well-distinguished Survey Monkey.
I mean, but how did you get the list, or how did you distribute it?
That was distributed by email to every homeowner in Rain Tree. And we asked for licensed drivers to weigh in on that.
Okay. All right. It just seemed like a lot for Rain Tree. I didn't realize there were that many folks that lived in there.
Well, it's 70 some homes. What is it, Josh? 70?
I thought it was 102. Am I off? You'd know better than I would.
I have one of the board members here with me.
83 families.
83 families live here.
Well,
So,
you had a good response then.
yeah, we did. We really did. Now, I did not do the survey. That survey was conducted by one of the board members, but yeah, they emailed it twice and got it done by the end of October.
Lance, if I can put you on the spot real quick, I know that we can't just arbitrarily pick speeds. What is the process if there's a concern like this, and what are the costs of that, and any other thoughts you have on this, and also thanks for your help with Mr. Russo on this.
Yeah, certainly always enjoyable working with Steve.
I want my leaf collection.
State and federal regulations require that a speed study be conducted before you entertain the changing of any speed limit, any posted speed limit. Essentially, that is a measurement of the observed speeds and established at the 85th percentile once, of course, you normalize the data. You don't want the bicyclists going at 15 miles an hour, and you don't want the Signal 10 emergency responses going at 70 miles an hour. So you lop off the ends of the bell curve until you have a statistically significant data set, and then you establish the 85th percentile speed. That is the foundation for the speed. There are then opportunities to look at other things that may be contributing factors, but at the end of the day, that 85th percentile speed by federal and state standards establishes the speed limit, and it should be within 5 miles an hour. It gives a little bit of a buffer because you're rarely going to hit 45, an exact number, or a 40 or 30, what have you. So we would collect data. It's a little bit difficult this time of year because you want normal driving conditions. You want to capture the accurate driving behaviors on a roadway while you're measuring things. It's a little bit unpredictable this time of year. Snow, ice, etc. People are going to slow down. So we would look to collect data for 3 days at least at probably 2 points at least along the roadway. If you decide that you want to look into this request, and I think it would be my recommendation that you do, keep in mind that this was once a state highway. The other factor in establishing a speed limit is what's called the design speed, and that's basically the curves and the hills on a roadway. And can anybody who's operating at or below the posted speed limit have enough reaction time to anything they might encounter in the roadway? We did this back in, I want to say 2014, give or take, after we had taken this corridor over from the state, and we found that there was I believe it's a 5-mile reduction in speed justification out in the western areas of Point, and maybe as much as 10 miles an hour, but my memory escapes me. So we would begin by collecting data first at an appropriate time. Like I said, when the weather's right, people are behaving normally in their driving behavior. And then look at other contributing factors that might be relevant to consider, and then bring back findings to you.
And Lance, today, really on our agenda, it is listed as a presentation. So, or maybe even this question for Heather, if this is something we want to take up, do we calendar it later in a subsequent agenda? Is that the best way to do that?
I think, yes, we would. So, once the study was done by Lance, if that's something we wanted him to do, I think we would be asking him to do that additional due diligence, and then we would bring back a resolution, which would, we may actually have to do an ordinance because we've had our ordinances previously dictating our speed on certain streets. So we would go back in and amend our current ordinance to reduce the speed on Sycamore Street.
Oh. Got it. And so do we need to vote to authorize Mr. Lance to do that speed study? I think it makes sense to me personally. Or is it just something he's able to do and say, we'd like that information to then make a more informed, we'd have to have that information to make any sort of decision.
Yeah, I'm looking at Lance a little bit too. This is when I normally look at you at the podium, Lance, but I think, it would probably be good to have some input from the council if this is something we wanted Lance and the administration to spend time on in terms of next steps. But Lance, I'll defer to you from the process.
Administratively, we can undertake a speed study at any time on any subject. I can do that at any time. We like to elevate these to a larger discussion because we do frequently get requests. And Steve, being the a reasonable person that he is, is bringing a reasonable request. I don't foresee, typically when you have these studies, you're in the 5 mile an hour change range. You rarely are going to look at a 10 mile an hour. The data is not probably going to support a 10 mile an hour, but I think it's certainly a valid use of time and resources. But like I said, we also get, I will say, the far-fetched requests. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. This is a highly visible corridor. I believe it's worthwhile of our time to study. But I do like having you all have the opportunity to kind of nod ahead and say, yeah, it makes sense. Or if this was something that was completely inane to you, you could say, thank you for your input. We'll take it under advisement. So I recommend that we move ahead with a speed study on this corridor, and I can report findings back to you. If the findings do not support a speed limit change, I will report that to you. If they do, I will most likely bring before you a draft ordinance for your consideration that would be based on the findings of this.
Lance, any risk if that speed study comes back and says it should be 50 instead of 45? We're not bound to raise a speed limit if a speed study says it should be raised?
There are some technical elements that would say, yes, be cautious what you measure and be cautious what you inspect because you may not get the results you like. I don't think that the data in this case would support varying upwards from 45. I'm confident that we were not going to put ourselves in a trick bag then of having to follow the required statistics and change the speed limit upward. If that happens, I'll throw it away. I'm kidding.
Steve, are you and the Raintree HOA board okay with that small amount of risk? You never know what happens when these things come out.
No, and Lance pointed that out to me in our previous discussion.
Okay.
I prefer to roll the dice with him, and if not, then we'll probably petition you for a speed bump. But other than that, we'll be fine.
Got it. Well, that'll be a harder petition, I'm not going to lie. Well, speaking personally, I would like to see a speed study. I'd love for other counselors to weigh in if they're okay with that request.
I'd definitely like to see one.
I saw thumbs up from Counselors Choi and Culp. Good from Counselor Trailer. So anyone against it? Okay. Well, Mr. Lance, I think you got some marching orders here. So when you think it's going to give the right time with the weather and whatnot, we'll look forward to hearing the results.
Yeah, I would say April would be a reasonable time frame to get some data collected and then evaluate it.
Great.
Thank you very much for your consideration and your time. All of us.
Thanks, Mr. Russo. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Lance. Okay. If no other questions on that, I assume, counselors. You want to move on with that? Didn't look like there was, but all right. Next up, we've got a presentation of the 2020 year-end transfers. This is per resolution 2020-21. There's not a vote associated with this. This is more of an FYI. Tammy, you are up.
Hi, President Garrett, members of the council. The year-end transfers, the resolution 2020-21 was passed in December 21st of last year, and we have gone through the appropriations and made transfers from one budget line item to another. There was only one instance where within the classification that we had to make a change from capital into services, and that was in one of the TIFs. All the other adjustments that you see in your packet were adjusted within the same category. So the categories being personnel, supplies, services, and capital. So I am open for questions at this time. And this is procedural, and you'll see this every year.
Thanks, Tammy. I know this was in the packet, but counselors, any questions on any of this? Again, no vote, just something to be aware of. All right. Hearing none, we'll move on. Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate that. Next up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance reestablishing the Zionsville Safety Board. This is ordinance number 2021-02, and also the same ordinance, if we remember, that our mayor spoke in favor of here earlier in this meeting. I'll sort of own, I guess, this introduction. I think we remember that the Safety Board, to be cautious, we wanted to make sure we reestablished it. And have done so with some work from Heather, her help, and the mayor's counterpart, Amy Nooning, on her side to get this to where it is today. It effectively, counselors, mirrors what the Board of Police Commissioners does. So it is a 5-member panel of 3 counselors and 2 civilians that are the disciplinary oversight for our fire department, much like the Board of Police Commissioners is the disciplinary oversight for the police department. Heather, anything that I'm missing on that? It's pretty straightforward. But...
Yeah, the only thing it doesn't mirror is the Board of Police Commissioners statute requires us to write into the ordinance that there be political balance, where the Safety Board statute does not. So you will not see that reflected here, but that's the only change different from what we previously have had with the Board of Police Commissioners.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Very good. And Amy, I noticed that the Councilor Culp got kicked off, just so you're aware. So he's trying to get back in.
Okay.
And Joe, he tried to call you as well. So Councilors, any questions on this? Any comments on this one? Again, this is with the mayor's support on this. And if there are none, I'll take the motion on this.
Move to adopt.
From Councilor Burke,
Second, Choi.
second from Councilor Choi. Amy, can you take
Yes.
roll call?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton. I think
You're
you're
on
on
mute.
mute.
There you
Craig.
go.
Yes.
Counselor Trailer.
Yes.
Very good. The motion passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Councilors, as the mayor and I had chatted, there are some pending issues with the safety board, and this is an ordinance which would require us to have to do it at the next meeting. One of the reasons why I thought it'd be good for her to speak at this meeting was to make sure that the public knew that this was something that was done in partnership with the mayor, because the last time we went through this, it was perhaps a little bit more contentious. And but I think it's important that if we can get this passed here today, so that we can get the safety board established, so that we can then get them to meet and deal with some issues if they come up. It's leaving us exposed to not have this. So I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules so that we can go through and finish this 3-step process, which means we'll vote to suspend the rules. If everyone's in agreement, then we'll vote a second time on this ordinance. And if that is approved, we would then send it to the mayor for her signature here after this meeting, and that safety board will be reconstituted. So I'll make a motion to suspend the rules if there's a second.
Second.
Second from Councilor Melton. Amy?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton,
Yes.
Counselor Trailer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. So the motion to suspend the rules passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. We then have to have a motion to adopt. So I'm making a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-02.
Second.
Second from Vice President Plunkett. Amy, last time on this, I promise.
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton,
Yes.
and Counselor Trailer.
Yes.
Very good. Ordinance 2021-02 is adopted by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Appreciate everyone's cooperation on that. Next, we've got a consideration of a resolution declaring items surplus and authorizing the disposition of surplus items. This is resolution 2021-02. Tammy, I believe this is yours again.
Yes. Council President, members of the council, this is a resolution that basically says that we can dispose of items that are damaged or no longer needed. We will try to sell these items for the State Board of Accounts regulations, so we can recoup just a little bit of money back from those items. But a lot of them are damaged, not working, and things like that. But that will allow us to get it out of storage and be able to free that up. So I am open for any questions at this time.
Thanks, Tammy. Councilors, any questions on this? Getting
Maybe what are just some examples of some of the stuff that we're looking at? I mean,
So some of the items are furniture from the Parks Department, Fire Department, equipment, some vehicle parts are just some examples.
Makes sense. Councilors, any other questions? This is something we'll have to vote on. Again, this is resolution 2021-02. Any motions here?
I'd move to adopt it. Or go ahead, Brian. I'll second it.
Sorry, Brian, was that in favor of?
Motion to approve. Yes.
Very good. Got it first from Councilor Trailer, second from Councilor Burke. Amy?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton,
Yes.
and Counselor Trailer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Resolution 2021-02 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have a consideration of a resolution to reestablish a cumulative capital development fund. This is a first reading and is resolution 2021-03. Amy, we're not voting on this. This is just an introduction by Tammy.
Right.
Very good. Tammy?
Council President, members of council, the CCD reestablishment basically sets a not to exceed amount of 0.05 cents per $100 of assessed value. This is, you're not voting on the actual rate that is handled through the budget process. This is just reestablishing it up to that 0.05. And then if you do not reestablish it, then it will drop every year because of trending. And so this is something that you will see again as an annual process. And this just gives the town additional flexibility during the budget time to have the rate be up to that 0.05 cents. And that is also within the tax cap. So this is not like a referendum where it's above what people, if they're capped at 1% for a homeowner, then this is within that rate. And so again, this is the first reading. We will notice it in the paper and have a public hearing and adoption consideration on March 1st. So you will see this again. And I'm open for any questions at this time.
Tammy. Any questions here?
Is this money specifically in to be spent in a certain direction or a certain fund?
Yes, so this is coming out of the Cumulative Capital Development Fund, otherwise known as CCD. And that fund currently funds the town hall payment, as well as vehicles, equipment, server infrastructure for IT for the town. So basically capital needs of the town.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate it. We'll see you again in a month on this one. Last up for new business, we've got a presentation regarding Boone County's COVID-19 vaccine rollout. I think something we're all very interested in. Boone County Commissioner Tom Santelli has agreed to give a brief presentation and answer any questions councilors may have on what the county is doing and how Zionsville can help. Tom, the floor is yours. And you are on mute.
Can you hear me? Yeah,
yep,
can you hear me?
We got you, Tom. Yep, thank you.
Well, thank you, Josh, for the introduction. We did have our unified command meeting this morning, and I want to give you an update on that, and then I want to focus on the vaccination clinics and the importance of that in our county and specifically in Zionsville. The good news is we are moving from red to orange, and we might even move up beyond that, which is really good. We're trending lower in positive COVID-19 cases in Boone County. Over the past 6 weeks, we've had one spike. As of today, 65 and up are eligible for the vaccine, and we had over 97,000 people register when that portal opened up. The other thing that the other area we're putting pressure on is to vaccinate those individuals which have comorbidities, where if they get COVID-19, they have a 5% survival rate, 60% survival rate, much worse than over 70. So some good things are happening. That's on a will call basis. So we do need those people with comorbidities to call the health department and get on the will call list. We're expanding hours this week at the fairgrounds because of additional available vaccines. So far, we've vaccinated more than 2,000 people at the fairgrounds, and the total number of Boone County residents that are currently vaccinated with the first round is about 7,745. So we're about at 10% of our population. We had 61 additional positive tests this weekend, bringing our total close to 6,000 in our county. We're starting, as of today, a new drive-through COVID testing clinic at the fairgrounds, which does not require a doctor's order. And that started up today. Our census continues to be full at Witham, but not due to COVID. The COVID numbers are down. We are moving vaccinations at the fairgrounds to the Farm Bureau building as of today with our expanded hours. We are reopening our county courthouse as of Wednesday of this week. New vaccination sites, we're exploring the Lebanon Public Library, the Lebanon Town Hall, the Traders Point Christian Church, and they're currently running COVID tests. I did, when the state contacted us to explore opening up 2-day vaccination clinics, I did contact the mayor of Lebanon, Matt Gentry. He got back to me within 15 minutes and had 3 proposals, including their town hall, because they're currently closed, the Lebanon Library, and the drive-through at the Lebanon Fire Department. So really good response there. We've been working with Traders Point Christian Church to open up a clinic in Whitestown. So we got good responses there. I got good response from Josh in terms of working within Zionsville. I've had nurses contact me that live here that would love to participate in a clinic. And, Josh, you asked me to get back to you with any issues, and you can ask questions on that. Kroger's is going to start vaccinating in Lebanon and Zionsville. These will be greatly reduced in terms of how many they're going to do a day. We're guessing about 20 per day. We are also working with Myers is contacting their pharmaceutical customers directly. Walmart is looking at starting up in Lebanon, so we've got Lebanon really well covered. We are also working on some pop-up clinics, specifically addressing Thorntown, Jamestown, and Advance. We have 45 active medical reserve corps volunteers, with 91 in reserve, and we're wanting to add more. Again, we've had retired healthcare workers that really want to jump into this and support Zionsville. I have friends, I know of people that if they would have been vaccinated 45 days ago, they would not have died. And I cannot overemphasize the sense of urgency around getting these vaccines into the arms of Hoosiers in Boone County. You've seen the disasters that have happened in Philadelphia and other cities. We have, as part of the ESF8 task force EMA, we have not done pop-up table drills. We have actually done real-time drills over the last 4 years to be able to respond to a pandemic. So when the vaccines became available and some of the other issues that Dr. Surveys in the health department have been dealing with, we were ready, and we had a flawless startup with regards to the vaccine clinic. So pretty impressive. The last 2-day deaths in the United States were 29,000 people. So from 1:30 to 2:01, we've had 29,000 deaths in the US. We've had more people contract COVID-19 in the last month than any other month. So this is a real problem. We've done well in Boone County. We continue to reduce the numbers, but keep in mind our deaths don't always reflect what's happening in Boone County, because if we have somebody from Lebanon go to St. Vincent's and they pass there, it's recorded as a Marion County death. So we have the same issue with drug deaths in our county, is that if they pass away outside the county, it might be recorded in another county. Again, I can't overemphasize the importance. If we have an opportunity to get additional vaccines through the state, those need a rapid, well-prepared response. So I've gotten a good response from Whitestown and from Lebanon. I got an email from one of our constituents last night, and his concern is, how come we're not doing anything in Zionsville? Why do I have to go to St. Vincent's? And why can't we focus on doing a better job in our community? And that's coming from constituents. We are in a FEMA level 1 emergency. This is not to be taken lightly. It's in all 50 states. I've sent out a map in terms of the number of cases. We have 4 different variants now that are more infectious, and they are spreading rapidly. And we need to get vaccines in arms, and we need to respond quickly to that. So
Hey,
with that,
Tom?
I'll take any questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Tom, this is Brian. You're talking about that, Whitestown, Lebanon, you've gotten good responses and they're setting up. Why don't we set one up in Zionsville?
Well, we approached, and Josh pushed it. We wanted to talk to Jamie Van Gorder. I got incredible responses from everybody except Emily. And Emily didn't respond to my voicemail. And when I sent in 4 days later, when I sent an email to her, Brian, she came back and said that Jamie Van Gorder, I've got him working on other things, work with Josh in Whitestown. And I don't get that. I honestly did not understand that. Josh responded instantaneously. And for some reason, it doesn't seem to be a priority.
Tom, what's involved in? Oh, sorry, Brian. You go ahead. These are your questions.
I don't. Sometimes I'm not sure where the line is, what falls within what we can do and what falls within what the mayor's administration can do. But maybe this is a good question for Heather. Do we have to have the mayor's consent to put a clinic, a vaccine clinic in Zionsville?
So I haven't researched this issue, so I'm a little hesitant to give a answer. You know, to the commissioner's point, you know, so much of this is being also coordinated through the state. So we would need to coordinate with the commissioners on a testing side as well as, or on a vaccine location as well as on, you know, with the State Department of Health. But I think if there's interest by this group to do that, I can certainly reach out to Bob Clutter, who's counsel for the commissioners, and have a conversation with him tomorrow and then explore, you know, next steps on behalf of the council to do that.
Yeah, Heather,
I
that's
would appreciate that. And actually, I'm sorry. I just thought about it. The mayor, I know she's on because she spoke earlier. Maybe she would like to chime in on her thoughts behind this. Mayor?
Not on anymore.
Yeah, I think she dropped after that
okay,
item.
sorry. She dropped off.
But Commissioner
Okay.
Santilli,
All right,
would that be the next best step from your perspective, to give Bob Clutter a call just to talk about coordinating and options on that?
We discussed that this morning with Bob Clutter present, and we recommend working directly with Lisa Younts. We discussed this morning, that if we're going to add a clinic, because to your point, we could end up with either support through the state and they would man it. We would also have the option of manning it through the Boone County Health Department. I think what we discussed today was the option of setting up an independent clinic where we would staff it, coordinated through the health department. So I would recommend the initial point of contact be with Lisa Younts, because then she's going to coordinate with Jill King, and we have one other person that we would work with. Caitlin Watson are the two names that come to mind with the state. The state has a pop-up clinic that might be of interest to us. And then there's also the option of putting in our own drive-through clinic for 2 days, or as Matt Gentry is doing, since the courthouse, since their administrative building is closed, you could do it similar to what we've done when we've set our town hall up as a vote center, and bring in people. And again, there's a huge sense of urgency. If you're presenting to the state that you're ahead of the game, your chances of getting more vaccines are much greater because you're ready to go. And they have some counties that aren't ready to go. And therefore you would get those vaccines. And I have had constituents call me, particularly with comorbidities and those things, that have been in their homes since February. And they're basically been in lockdown. And we need to work as hard as we can to get those folks vaccinated and back to a life, if you will. There's a sense of urgency. Thank you.
Tom, you mentioned these, when the UC meets and you guys have to figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do. Are these vaccinations that are pulled from a different location, or are these new vaccinations that if they don't go somewhere, they go somewhere else?
Example would be if a county's not set up. In other words, Hendricks County got vaccines 2 weeks ahead of us. If you are set up and ready to go, and you are pressuring from the standpoint of not how are you going to deliver it. As an example, New York had 220,000 vaccines that sat there for a period of time because they weren't ready. And if you've contacted the state and you're saying, we want to set up a clinic in Zionsville, and we have constituents that want to have this done, and we're ready, and we have volunteers, it is going to push additional vaccines into Boone County. We've already increased the number of vaccines going to the health department.
So I guess, Tom, I guess my question specifically using the example, you mentioned the UC Met looking for opportunities and places to do this, and Zionsville was one of them that you reached out to and was not receptive. And as a result, those will go somewhere else, correct? Those will not be vaccinations that we would ever have an opportunity to get back.
I might jump in here too. So I've been working with the State Department of Health on this, and I know that Dr. Box, and I'm sure Commissioner Santelli would agree, has been aggressively trying to push vaccine out to communities, across the state. So I think one of the points that the commissioner made is that, each week these counties are giving an allocation request to the state of Indiana. The state of Indiana is taking the vaccine that they're being distributed through the federal government, and they're moving that vaccine to the county health departments and or satellite locations, based on the eligibility of individuals in the current phase, which we're now in phase 1B, which, gets the population's 80 and now down to 65, which they just started scheduling for today. So while there isn't a direct science, it's based on the number of vaccines coming into the state. I think the point is, if you are ready and you show that you have people able to vaccinate and you have clinics stood up and you're able to get shots in arms, the state is more likely to push additional vaccine to those counties with those additional locations than to places where they can't get shots in arms. The biggest goal is just to, rapidly deploy this. So they're really looking at capacity in making the allocation for each week to week on what counties and what communities are getting what vaccination. Is that, Commissioner, is that align with all of your thinking and what you've been hearing as well?
Yeah, that's exceptionally well stated. And again, the vaccines allocations are going to increase. And we don't want to get to a point where we're vaccinating at Witham, we're vaccinating at the fairgrounds. We've got other options in Lebanon, and we haven't served the community in Zionsville. And if I may, my mother's 95 years old, and she's a self-starter. People tried to sign her up for the vaccine. I walked her through the process. She got signed up. When she got to the clinic, there was a police officer there that were walking people to the correct door. There was fire, EMS, EMTs in the staging area, in the sitting area after you got vaccinated. And we're dealing with a couple things here. Number one is people aren't 100% behind this vaccine. Number two, we need to make people feel as absolutely comfortable as possible that we're delivering the best of the best. And it's being done, and I think that we could excel in terms of demonstrating to our community our commitment to the health and well-being of our residents. So, and yes, that was extremely well stated. Thank you.
The other thing I might mention just for the group, since we're talking about this, and I think it again reiterates the commissioner's point, is the State Department of Health is also starting a conversation with our large employers in the state. So any employers with 1,000 or more employees, based in a single location or in a group of locations. And they are putting a seminar on. So if we have large employers in our community, they're offering a toolkit, but also through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation in conjunction with the State Department of Health and the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership. They are collaboratively working at how to begin to prepare for on-site vaccination clinics at those large employers. So that'll be once, we've gotten to sort of a new phase where we're past sort of the, 80 and older, 65 and older population, will go to what's called an essential worker. So those businesses that were just deemed essential during the pandemic will be given preference for their workers. So that's another thing we can start to prepare for any of those large employers in our community. helping make sure they're aware of this conversation and that those resources are being coordinated so that they can also be prepared to be first in line to be vaccinated.
Yeah, I would like to recruit our town council, and I spent 4 hours going through a training program on vaccination deployment and all the issues around that. There's a lot of misinformation, and so I can send you that detailed presentation because we need to be advocates. And what am I talking about? So Whipham has 1,200 employees. They are all on the list to be vaccinated. So far, we've had 400 that have voluntarily vaccinated. So that is, do the math. We need to get to 70%. So not only do we need to get shots in arms for the people that really want to get vaccinated, we also need to really push this in our community. And there's a lot of good information out there of how the vaccine was developed, how it's been being deployed, so many other things. So it's not just saying, okay, now we've opened a clinic. It is, we have to be advocates out there presenting accurate information on this, particularly as you go to employers and things like that. If you look at our census at Whipham with 1,200 people and 400 have voluntarily vaccinated, it's concerning to all of us. So there's many parts to this that really would benefit from the action of the town council. We just produced a video that I sent over to Josh as well as Jason. And some of you might have seen it, where we go through the unified command with Abby Messenger making a presentation, with Dr. Surveys making a presentation, Donnie Lawson with commissioners, with our sheriff, and with Lisa Younts. And it's a very compelling presentation in terms of what's going on, what we need to do. And I will send that out, plus vaccination strategies.
So Tom, first of all, thank you to you and the county commissioners for being all over this. I mean, talking about all the sites that have already been set up, and it is both encouraging to hear there are so many in Boone County and discouraging to hear that none of them are in Zionsville. It's great for Lebanon. I mean, as you spoke, seemed like all the sites were set up in Lebanon, Boone County Fairground, Lebanon Public Library, Town Hall, Fire Department, potentially coming soon. So, I think your point there on driving people to want the vaccine is valid. I'll take it as soon as I'm allowed to. But I think just making sure that we have one or multiple sites for our citizens here in Zionsville, I can't think of a more important thing going on in town government right now than that. So Heather, perhaps as you reach out after this meeting, I don't feel like we should sit on this. I would love if you perhaps could include the mayor's council on that discussion. I don't know why she didn't respond to Commissioner Santelli. I don't know why we don't have clinics set up here to vaccinate. Maybe there's a reasonable answer for that, and the mayor's not on the call, so we can't ask her. But again, there is a urgency here, especially as vaccines get ramped up. I think the Vice President Plunkett's point earlier feels to me the more we are ready to go, the more supply we will get for demand that already exists. And if we aren't setting things up, that supply is going to go to other counties that are doing this. And our citizens are now going to have to drive to Lebanon, which is a lovely town, but is a long drive for some of our citizens to get a vaccine, and they'll have to go there twice. So I don't understand any of that. And so I would like, whatever urgency we can muster to get that ball rolling, Heather, and anything you need from this council, we are happy to contribute, because whether it's reallocating funds or advocating or whatever that may be, we need to get I don't want to say we need to get ahead of this because it's been going on for a year, but we need to certainly help as much as we can.
Yeah, and just for the council and for the commissioner, I've already reached out to Bob Clutter while we were talking, and he and I have talked regularly, so I'm certain we'll talk first thing in the morning. And then Commissioner, I'll make sure we're talking with Lisa, Jill, Caitlin. And I think your point was well taken that, you know, if we can coordinate this through the Marion or through the Boone County Health Department, that's going to give us our greatest opportunity, A, to be able to get it stood up quickly, and B, to be able to deploy vaccination quickly, because those allocations are going to continue to be pushed from the state through the county health departments. And I think if we get that done, we can, you know, coordinate with the state. But I think the state's goal, in fact, I know the state's goal is shots in arms. So they're willing to do whatever it takes to help, you know, get that done as quickly as possible. And I think they've been very creative and flexible in how they're trying to deploy this vaccine.
Yes.
And I do want to add that we need to make this a very positive experience, that when somebody comes to Zionsville, that we do it as good or better than anybody. We have that capability. I would love to have members of our public safety group directing people and helping them, explaining to them what's going to happen when they go in, and then having somebody from our fire EMT EMS group there sitting with the group, expressing our sense of urgency and concern that if something does happen, somebody goes into anaphylactic shock or something like that, that they have people there that really care and give them an immediate response. It's part of encouraging people to get the vaccine. And if it's a great experience, it is going to help multiply that, where even with the healthcare teams with them, where you've got 400 out of 1,200 people that have taken it, we've got to get to 70% to get this under control. We had more people die in January than ever before. It's a level 1 FEMA emergency, and we have the capability of ramping this up. So, thanks for calling, Heather. Heather, thanks for calling, Bob. That's great.
Absolutely. Thanks for your leadership.
And Tom, I agree, although quite frankly, I want it to be a positive experience, but at a basic, I want it to be an available experience, which today it is not in Zionsville, and that's concerning. So appreciate your time here today. Councilors, any other quick thoughts here? I know we've taken up a lot of Commissioner Santelli's time here.
Thanks for your work, Tom. You guys are doing a good job.
Tom.
Well, it's a privilege to work with all of you.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening, and thanks again for you and all the commissioners, the work you guys are doing. Okay, after that sobering presentation, we will move on to any other matters councilors may have. Councilors, anything you need to bring up? All right, then we will move on to claims. Approval of claims. Any questions on claims? No. Take a motion to them. And Amy, looks like Joe got kicked off again, so he may not get to vote on claims. I'll make a motion to approve claims, though.
Second.
Second from Councilor Choi. Amy, you're on mute. Amy, you're on mute. Councilor Culp's back.
I was busy trying to get him back.
No problem.
President Garrett.
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilor Burke.
Yes.
Councilor Choi.
Yes.
Councilor Culp.
Yes.
Councilor Melton.
Yes.
Councilor Trailer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Claims are approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
Is that Jason?
Yeah, sorry.
Very good. Amy?
President Garrett.
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilor Burke.
Yes.
Councilor Choi.
Yes.
Councilor Culp.
Yes.
Councilor Melton.
Yes.
And Councilor Trailer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Motion to adjourn is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 16th, 2021 at 7:30 a.m. Please note the shift in due date due to the President's Day holiday. Determination of the need for a solely electronic meeting will be evaluated prior to the meeting, and final notice will be posted in compliance with the Indiana open door law. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thanks.
You.
Thank you.